Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and joining me, Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Twit! What's going on, Trevor?
Thwip, indeed. Today we're going to be talking all about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. As we often do, this will be a spoiler cast, so we'll kind of give our spoiler-free impressions up front, and then dive into full spoiler territory with clearly delineated timestamps. And then next week we'll probably be back with a Tears of the Kingdom spoiler cast because Cameron has finished that game. I'm basically at the end game. I finished doing all of the shrines last night, and while Cameron is at work tomorrow, I will basically go and do the final Ganon fight stuff. So yeah, look forward to all of that come next week as well. But a little bit of housekeeping before we start. If you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, ring notification bells, all of that fun stuff. So Cam, you and I went and saw Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse last night. I loved it so much that I went back this morning for a second screening. As I've talked about in the past, I saw the first movie in theaters 9 times. It is my favorite movie of all time, so I've been very much looking forward to this one. What did you think, spoiler free, of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse?
This is the best Spider-Man film of all time.
Oh, okay.
I think that this film does so much. I think that it has a less impactful message overall, like the overall message of like the symbolism and everything that you get.
I mean, it's hard to top like anyone can wear the mask.
Yeah, anywhere like everything that Into the
Spider-Verse was the first one, yeah.
Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse did message wise, I think is not going to get topped. I think that it's still one of the most inspirational movies that's ever been made. I think that it is groundbreaking in its way of touching and crossing over into a variety of like every spectrum of people's lives and bringing us together while also highlighting what makes us unique and special. I don't think that you can really top that in Into the Spider-Verse. However, I think as a film goes, Across the Spider-Verse is one of the most cinematic, incredible experiences I've ever seen. It is one of the most, on just an artistic level, one of the greatest films I've ever seen. Just on every level of production, every level of detail, everything they do to take the Miles Morales story that was started in Into the Spider-Verse and define him as a Spider-Man among Spider-Men. And what it does and what it sets up is one of the best things that I've ever seen in my life. I look at this very much as an enormous undertaking that if they can clinch it out in the next film, it will make this one of the greatest trilogies of all time, potentially the greatest. That's how high I am off of it after seeing it last night.
Yeah, I'm there with you on the trilogy front. Into the Spider-Verse still takes the cake for me. I mean, that's always subject to change, especially I've seen that one so many more times. I've seen this only twice. I think the thing that will most likely keep Into the Spider-Verse ahead for me, though, is Into the Spider-Verse works as such a tight, self-contained story, whereas this, while I think it does do a great job telling its own story, is also very, very clearly set up as a part one of part two, or of 2 parts. So it's the kind of thing I said like last night when we get home. If I had a full 5 hours that was this and part 2, like all in one thing, easily could be my favorite movie of all time. But until I know where we go from here for some of these things, I can't quite put it on that level. But I do think like it is. I mean, it's like Into the Spider-Verse is just so hard to top. I don't think this is like it's not even like a lesser film. It's just that because of the structure that it is evoking, because it is the beginning of a larger narrative that they're going to wrap up in the next film. I think that hampers it a little bit, but I still think it is a phenomenal film. And I think even though it is a part one of two, it does it does the great thing that like Dune Part One did, or like obviously it wasn't a part one of part two, but like Empire Strikes Back tells a full story while still leaving Darth Vader out there to be the big bad for the next movie and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
like it does. It's not Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest of like that was a 2-hour trailer for the next movie.
Yeah.
Like this is a good a phenomenal self-contained film. But I think across the or Into the Spider-Verse still tops it a little bit for me. But like I love everything they're doing here, and production value. Yeah, like the newness of Into the Spider-Verse is not as much there, but it is still like every shot is amazing. Going and seeing it a second time, I was catching so many things that I missed last night. I will say one of the things that hampers it a little bit as well, and this is something I've seen making the rounds as well online, is like your mileage with this movie can vary wildly, it sounds like, based on the audio mix of your theater. Last night, we didn't have the best mix. There was a lot of like imbalance between hearing music and hearing dialogue.
Mhm.
Today, I had a much better mix, so I was able to like catch a lot more of the dialogue. I think there's like also a whole bunch of different elements of that it's easier to understand people when you can see their mouths moving, which obviously a lot of the characters in this movie have masks, so you don't see the mouths moving. And there are kind of, elements of that I still will very much look forward to seeing this as a subtitled movie as well. But I think that can't be denied that like the audio mix, if you get a bad one, hampers your enjoyment. Not to like a severe extent, I would say, but like there was definitely a whole bunch of stuff I was like, I didn't catch what they said in dialogue moments, and I missed jokes, and I missed character beats and stuff like that because there's so much going on, and it can be overwhelming on the senses. That said, the art style, as we visit the different universes in this one, is everything I think we wanted from Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, that we didn't get. Like we get to see lots of cool different flavors in this one, and it like fulfills on that promise. And performances are phenomenal. I have been listening to the soundtrack pretty much nonstop since we got home last night. I've thrown up the YouTube playlist and just been like, especially Gwen Stacy's theme is just a banger that I love so much. And this movie doesn't rely on as much licensed music as the first film did, but I think Daniel Pemberton, as the composer, like still took those things, created new themes, took the themes from the first film, and still like did incredible, amazing work and very diverse work. There are sequences in like Mumbattan, where you've got like India Spider-Man kind of thing, and I don't count that as a spoiler because it's they've shared that scene, they've shared plenty of trailer things on it.
I don't think there's like a hidden Spider-Man aspect that hasn't been in any of the trailers.
Yeah, so yeah, there are is a diversity to the music as well. Like I mean, Gwen's beat is very kind of like very drum infused, because from the moment we first saw her in the trailer for Into the Spider-Verse, she was out there drumming and being a drummer in a band kind of thing. And
Mary Janes.
Yeah, the Mary Janes. And so like the syncopation to her theme is something that like I really connect with. Miles' theme continues to be great. Like musically, the only thing I was missing from this was maybe a "What's Up Danger" style moment.
Yeah,
but again, like with the first one, you're never gonna top "What's Up Danger." You're never gonna top that imagery in that moment. No. And so like it would have been foolish for them to attempt it and fall short. So like ultimately, I don't miss that it's not there, but it is a thing that like comes to mind of like, oh, like the music is great, but it doesn't have that like like over the top, like 11 out of 10 sequence that the first movie did.
What's Up Danger, I think, is one of the greatest cinematic moments in history, period. And
Yeah.
I just don't think I think that is one of the best, that is probably the top moment in all of Spider-Man cinema.
Hmm.
I think that the only thing that like reaches like into that pinnacle of that space is Spider-Man 2's train stop scene,
Yeah.
where he stops the train and then they do the pass back and like then they like stand up for like that moment is like those are the two I think high points for this like Spider-Man like cinema,
Hmm.
like within this franchise, not just Marvel but just overall, just like top to bottom. I think that this is I think that you just don't top that. But what I loved about it, and what instead of having like a "What's Up Danger" moment, you have there's a moment where, and by the way, I missed the guy's name. I apologize, but the composer,
Daniel Pemberton.
yeah, Daniel Pemberton, his variations of the traditional Spider-Man theme throughout this film is phenomenal.
Hmm.
I like you got so many variations of a Spider-Man theme matching the different Spider people. Whether it's Gwen's, whether it's Miles's that comes in at this incredible moment of like really great triumph for the character as at like when he pulls something off and it's like really impressive. Uh, but I just found myself just blown away by just I didn't miss the licensed music. I
Hmm.
didn't miss it because I felt like I was so enraptured with the way that the composition of the music that was playing matched with the scenes that they were in. I didn't need a prepaid punk theme to come in. I got a spider punk theme,
Hmm.
and it matches everything so well. It like the way that it's adapted is done so well.
Yeah.
And I think that just circling back to artistic work is it's mind-boggling how great this is. Every single artist is incredible who works on this. Shout out to like to Chris Anka, who is an awesome guy in the Kind of Funny community, who is also just an incredible artist and
Hmm.
worked on this film, and so many other artists who worked on this film. Lord and Miller, who wrote it and put this these ideas together. Everyone who did like this was a top-notch job, and I'm so happy after the box office, the lack
The
of it,
lukewarm
yeah, the
box office
lukewarm,
of the first one. Yeah.
yeah, the lukewarm reception of it in the first one being absolutely blown out of the water. This time around, absolutely just like wrecking recent box office numbers.
Hmm.
It's so wonderful to see.
Yeah. I obviously you and I both like retweeted Andy's tweet on it, but it's something I had been thinking about even before seeing his tweet about it. The
Same.
fact that like because obviously as I said, I saw this movie, the first movie, 9 times in theaters. I was very much trying to do whatever I could to bolster those box office numbers at the time, and it broke my heart that such a great movie did kind of get largely overlooked. But then it won the Oscar. Then it came to Netflix and blew up on Netflix, especially the following year when everybody was like at home in the pandemic and stuck and with nowhere to go. Like I think it got so many extra new eyes on it because everyone was just glued to streaming services during that first year, and so like like I've been preparing this for this weekend in terms of like mentally of like it's gonna break my heart that like it's going to probably fare just as lukewarm as the first movie did, and I couldn't be more pleasantly surprised to be wrong about that this
Yeah.
weekend of like because again just like the first one, like this one, like reviews hit and everybody was like, oh my god, it's amazing, critical reception, like the splash thing in ads became this is the greatest superhero movie of all time, kind of thing. And I was like, all right, calm down, especially when it's like that is like the quote from one person and they quoted him twice in the ad or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right.
And also there's just as much praise for Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
It is 100 like you and I mean you and I both, I know you, this is your favorite film of all time, but this film, it outside just the first film, outside just loving it, sorry, not this is your favorite film, Into the Spider-Verse is your favorite film of all time. There's something very special to me about Into the Spider-Verse, that outside of just like my personal love of it, it's my niece Ginny's favorite movie. I've watched this movie, or I watched that movie with her probably a dozen times when I was living with my sister, and it was like, for a kid who loves unicorns and rainbows and, you know, princesses and all this stuff, and then you ask her what's your favorite movie, and she goes Spider-Verse. Just like I have such a deep love for that movie, and so getting to see it sequel be such a phenomenal accomplishment.
Yeah,
Like box office wise, critically, and then just personally, just like watching it and having such an amazing time.
Yeah, I'm like, definitely like, it's, you know, it's a coin toss right now if I do or don't go see it again when we finish recording this podcast tonight.
I mean, you don't have work tomorrow. So,
exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely happening again tomorrow. It's just a matter of, does it also happen tonight after going and seeing it this morning?
When you told me, you're like, oh yeah, I last night after you went to bed,
I was fully expecting you to still be asleep when I left this morning.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I was weirdly up at like super early this morning for some reason. I don't know what was up.
I mean, the first movie was a similar thing though. It was like I had been so excited about the first movie from like the trailers and stuff for months that I had an early screening, went and saw it at the then Alamo, and then I got home and I was like, I need to go see that again, and went and saw it at Tempe Marketplace that opening night. So I saw it twice on that like Thursday preview night or whatever. So the fact that I didn't see it Thursday or Friday and like waited.
You're patient.
I
cannot stress enough how appreciative I was, because when you said, "Hey, Friday night," I was like, I actually have dinner plans. Yeah. Are you okay? And you said, I will wait. And I was so appreciative of that, because I can't imagine the struggle that you must have been going through.
If I had really needed to, I would have been like, all right, I'm going to see this after we finished recording that D+ show for Indiana Jones Raiders last week. But I was like, I can breathe. I've got plenty of other things to do. It will still be there Saturday. But yes, now that I've seen it, I'm like, I do want to just see it over and over and over again, because it is so beautiful and so brilliant. Music is incredible. The art style, again, like going, the getting to see in the first movie, it was cool how we saw the art style from the other characters interacting with Miles' universe. In this one, we get to spend so much more time in other universes, in particular Gwen's universe. We get to see so much time in her universe and the incredible, beautiful, different art style that we get in her universe that I absolutely just adore. And I can't wait to see like where we continue to go from here. So yeah, I'm so glad that we don't have to wait another 5 years between this and the next movie. The next one is currently slated for March of 2024, so only got a 9-month wait for that one. And if they wanted to push it up and give me an early birthday present, I would not be mad about that at all next year. But yeah, resounding endorsement from both of us, Shamik Moore, Haley Steinfeld, Jake Johnson, Oscar Isaac, like everybody brings their A game, all the voice performers. In particular, also want to shout out Luna Lauren Velez and Brian Tyree Henry as Miles's parents, continuing to do phenomenal work. Loving their we got to see their relationship in the first movie. We get to see it continue in this movie with a more adjusted Miles in the role kind of thing, and the pains and pitfalls that entails as well. But yeah, just so much great stuff. Jason Schwartzman also fun and intimidating as the villain. He's very much kind of pulling some Gideon Graves from Scott Pilgrim vibes in this.
It's so crazy, because I feel like there's also there's a level of maliciousness from his teenage character from Rushmore almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm completely
I mean, for me, that was my first time ever seeing Jason Schwartzman. So he's always that to me. He's always that snotty kid from Rushmore. But yeah, He does some great work here. So yeah, we'll dive into full spoiler territory now. So last chance to duck out before. But yes, go see this movie, please, dear God, go see this movie. It's amazing. And then go see it again and again so that it does crazy numbers and wins all the awards, and yay, because yay for Spider-Verse movies. All right, spoiler filled. Cam, I'll throw it to you. Like, I danced around this a little bit more because I feel like I saw this less in trailers and stuff. And I had mostly heard about it, as we talked about last night, through like casting stuff. But your favorite Spider-Man of all time is in this one.
Yes,
we get a lot of Spider-Punk, Hobie Brown. What did you think of him?
I loved him. Oh my gosh, he's
everything you wanted
and more.
Yeah,
and more. The fact that they made him Cockney British that's a tie into the it was a choice for the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show. When they had him on there, he had a Cockney accent. In the comics, he's just from New York, so it's not like he's British. But the idea that they paid homage to the British punk style,
yeah.
So a little.
I mean, like so much of his whole vibe is like Sex Pistols and the Clash posters, and artwork and stuff. Yeah,
very much so. So Dan Slott and the other creator of when they were doing the Spider-Verse, Spider-Geddon. Kind of tie-in comic books. They designed him initially to be that was supposed to be Spider-Man UK, and Dan Slott said he's not even UK. He's just 100% punk. There's no like UK kind of brandedness to him, and so they decided later on they're like, hey, what if we reuse that and just make that Spider-Punk and bring that in, whether it's the spike mohawk, whether it's the just everything about him. In the comics, he literally murders Norman Osborn, who's the president of the United States.
I mean, I feel like everything happens in the comics, so that's a nothing to me.
That's fair.
You saying this happens in the comics, I'm like, you could make up 5 things, and I'd say, yeah, they probably all happen in the comics.
Yeah, but he also smashes Norman Osborn. He uses his electric guitar with an amp to like blow off the venoms that all of the fascists are wearing, and then he smashes Norman Osborn's skull with his guitar. Murders the president of the United States. It's awesome.
So one of the things I wanted to touch on that I saw and got to appreciate on a second viewing, obviously, again, in full spoiler stuff, end of the film, like the way that Gwen is able to dimension hop is because Hobie has built a watch for her. I realized this time around that like all of his fun little like picking pieces off the wall is him like taking the parts that he's going to use to build that thing.
Yep. In the comics, Hobie Brown is a super genius as well.
Oh yeah. Well, I feel like they all are.
Yeah, they pretty much all are. It comes with being Spider-Man. Also, he doesn't like being called Spider-Punk in the comic books because he's just Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, he doesn't like labels.
He doesn't like labels. He's so oh my gosh. So
I mean, he is stereotypically everything like every line that he says is like such a cliche thing, but it's also perfect and expertly delivered. Daniel Kaluuya, definitely he definitely steals the show when he's on. Obviously, like he gets like a very bombastic entrance we get to see, blaring on his guitar to break through a shield, and then we get his little backstory thing where he like hides that he's gonna give away his identity kind of thing, but then we do eventually see him later, and I love that line of like, how do you look even cooler under the mask?
And he says some comment about it. It's like I forgot what it exactly is, but basically it's like I was like you could always see under the mask.
Pretty much, yeah. I was always this cool kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, like it's he does such an amazing job, just absolutely nailing it. I'm a massive fan of Daniel Kaluuya. He in just about everything he's in. So him voicing Hobie Brown for me is like I'm like a dream come true. If you could act like, and he nails the Cockney on it perfectly.
Yeah. I loved. I caught it last night too, but like I just appreciate the I know Scooby-Doo kind of thing. Scooby-Doo is Cockney for for clue, and being like Oh, that's like just a 11 Ocean's 11 reference.
Yep.
Right in the middle of this movie.
Yep, it's so freaking perfect. He's so perfect. Hobie Brown is like, for people who don't know, Hobie Brown's the name of the Prowler in the comic books. He's supposed to be the alternate universe version of that person who becomes Spider-Man, and he's a street artist and just an awesome character. Getting him
he's another Prowler?
So, Hobie Brown is the name of the Prowler in the comic books.
Okay. I mean, versus Aaron?
Versus Aaron, yeah.
I mean, Aaron is also a Prowler in the comic books. I know Uncle Aaron is.
Yes, yeah. So yes, to answer your question, yes.
Okay, so we're just talking multiple Prowlers here.
Yeah, there is multiple Prowlers. Because there's the Prowler, Uncle Aaron's the Prowler from the Ultimate Spider-Man comic books. The Prowler from the like Amazing Spider-Man comic book series is Hobie Brown. So Hobie Brown being the like Spider-Punk universe, Spider-Man is awesome. Getting to see that
ties into the end of this movie as well, with Miles becoming the Prowler in the universe where he wasn't bit.
Yep, which is another great tie-in to this whole thing about the Prowler and Spider-Man, and kind of like this Ultimate Spider-Man making the Prowler in the Ultimate comic books, Miles's uncle, creating an intrinsic, like, natural link between these two characters and identities coming full front at the end of this film is one of the reasons why I love it so much. There's so many great things about it. Also the fact that, like, Hobie Brown is the Spider-Punk is the one that captures Donald Glover's
Prowler, yeah.
Yep. And once again,
yeah.
Just once again, this intrinsic links. It's so amazingly done. That
was such a delightful cameo too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And we talked about it last night, but like the way that the art style matches so well and like lines up so greatly with live action. Like, it's not the first time this has been done. Who Framed Roger Rabbit came out literally in the 90s. But
was it the 90s? I feel like it was the 80s.
Late 80s, early 90s. I don't recall which.
I think 88, yeah.
88, there you go. I didn't see it till the mid 90s.
Yes, because you weren't alive in the 80s.
Well, I was alive in 89, so it was before I was born, though, still.
Yeah.
November of 89. I barely count. I just love Spider-Punk so much. So and also, I didn't keep up. I had seen
you didn't know he was in this, so he was just a pleasant surprise for you.
I had heard, Spider-Punk's going to be in this. My assumption was Spider-Punk was just kind of going to probably be one of these lobby cameos.
Yeah.
And that was what my expectation was. And instead we got him being an intrinsic character. And I'm just like, this is so amazing. I get to see my favorite Spider-Man just like take center stage. I've been a massive fan since Into the Spider-Verse was like contemporary with the Spider-Verse comics that were going on and Spider-Geddon. And so I picked up, because I was in a comic book shop picking up Gary Whitta's Oliver comic. And I was like, oh, Spider-Punk. I like the, I'm trying to remember if it was like, I like the costume from the game or whatever, which I don't know which came first, but the point being is that I was like, oh, cool, a Spider-Punk, that's cool.
Yeah, like my introduction to Spider-Punk was the Insomniac 2018 Spider-Man, where like he was a costume in there. And that was before the movie, before Spider-Verse came out.
Yeah. And so that's all, like, that whole, like, creation-wise, contemporary-wise, it's all around the same time. But yeah, I loved, ever since I first read the comics, and it's him, like being a punk, like this punk in this post, like, apocalyptic, capitalistic nightmarescape of New York. And it's such a cool way to do it. And I love how in Across the Spider-Verse, they frame it as New York is like London. And it had to the point where you have that famous, like, London Square, instead of Times Square.
Trafalgar Square, yeah.
Yeah, they have that going on in it. And it's just, his is the, like, least comprehensive of the origins. But it's so punk rock, I don't care. It's his... I mean,
it's all style.
It's all style. His art style, particularly, that he's pulled from, is straight out of those 80s, 90s zines, punk zines.
Yeah.
Of these kind of like mix of grayscale and newspaper, and color newspaper kind of scaling, or color scaling. And him just, he clashes with everything that he's ever in. but it makes him look even cooler. And it's when he's standing and his silhouette and like his character silhouette is blended, but then his guitar on his back is specifically not. And I'm just like, this is the coolest thing ever. And that's just one thing that I absolutely adore about this movie. Then you get like Indian Spider-Man, who is awesome because he's using his bangles as like bangles are part of his like web shooting technique. And he's doing that, and it's awesome because sometimes he kicks them to make them go in a different direction for himself. And I'm just like, there's so much going on here. And then you get freaking Spider-Man 2099 with his freaking like Venom backhand web shooters, but it's actually like laser grids, and it's just everything about it is so damn cool.
Yeah, the cold open, the extended cold open that we get of like basically like Gwen's perspective and what she's been up to since like the events of the first movie, and basically how she hasn't really been able to connect with anybody else save Miles since Peter died. We get to see kind of an extension of her little intro blurb that we did get in the first movie as like in her let's tell the story one more time kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
We got to see Peter voiced by Jack Quaid. That was a fun like discovery kind of thing.
Oh, that's
in the
so
credits.
cool. I didn't know Jack Quaid did that.
Yeah. Much like the Chris Pine, surprise from the first movie. It's like, oh, neat. So yeah, him obviously in that universe, Gwen gets bit by a spider, and so he wanting to be special like her, becomes the lizard and stuff like that, and then dies as we knew. And the fact that like she's still, yeah, we talked about this a little bit last night. Like the fact that both her and Miles are on this like issue where they've felt what it's like to not be alone anymore, and now they have to be alone again and don't think they're ever going to change that. Like I love the backstory for Miles of like his goal in life is now to like learn quantum physics so he can do dimension hopping kind of thing, so he can go see his friends that he met at this very pivotal moment in his life. Mm-hmm. And I love that like even when Gwen kind of gets introduced and gets swept up in the idea that there is multiverse hopping and there's a way to do it without glitching and stuff like that, she immediately is like, I want that. I need to have that. And so like I love that they're star-crossed and like they want nothing more than to get back to one another. Like the fact that we see Miles in so much of like Gwen's kind of like intro thing as she's like walking through the subway, and I love the interpretation of like you see Gwen walking, but like in a reflection you see her in the Ghost Spider outfit, or the doors open and she's Ghost Spider, the doors open, she's Gwen or something like that. Like they just do such a great thing. And this goes back to the art style, like the whole like watercolor art vibe of her world changing with the emotion of a scene. Mm-hmm. Fucking incredible. Like every conflict she has with her dad, Captain Stacy, the shading when they're at odds with one another versus like they go in for a hug and everything brightens up, and like it, the world exudes her mood and her like mindset in such a beautiful way. And then we get to see that kind of come full circle at the end when she gets sent back home, and has that beautiful moment with her dad.
That entire moment when he says, I like, oh my gosh, when she says, like, she explains everything, he goes, like, I quit. And she goes, when'd you quit? He goes,
halfway through your big speech.
Yeah. It's like, oh, like, and the best part, one of my favorite things is right after that, the details on his badge and like cop identification are like gone.
Yeah. The outline is still there, but like, they're not focusing on that anymore.
He's no longer the cop. That's just like not necessary to focus on his emotions, his face, and his support of her. And it's so damn good.
Yeah. The thing I caught on the second viewing is like, even within a moment, like when it's more dramatic and there's like a somber tone to it, like paint is running down the walls in the background. Like it is
Oh,
like it is like even the background is constantly like in flux and moving, and it's not like a still thing. And so yeah, it's just it like so beautiful. And then yeah, to contrast that, yeah, I like the art style of Hobby is like everything I wanted from this kind from that kind of aesthetic from the first movie of like, you know, we don't get a ton of Penny Parker in this. We don't get Spider-Ham. We don't get Spider-Man Noir, but we get obviously the illusion that they're all going to be back in the next movie. Fucking great.
yep.
Um,
Shout out also like Hobby is Spider Punk like aesthetic being a beautiful like continuance of like the noir aesthetic we got from the first film.
mhm.
I love that there's like a direct lineation of that of like they are completely willing to let the atmosphere, not just the character art, but the atmosphere of around the character dictate what's going on in that universe.
Yeah,
So I forgot to make that mention when I was talking about Spider Punk a second ago.
yeah,
But yeah, we're gonna get more of them in the next film. I'm excited. Penny showing up, it was heartbreaking when she tries to talk Miles down,
hmm
and God, oh my God, like oh my heart.
yeah. It's so I've routinely said that I have two incredibly minor gripes with Into the Spider-Verse. Other than that, I think it is a perfect movie. And the two are one, I don't think it needs the scare with the spider glitching that you get in that movie. And two, the moment when they all leave Miles like tied up and they all just thwip out and there's clearly nothing in the sky above them. uh, I think those are like my two gripes. As I've continued to think about it, I do think I have a third that is more substantive, and I think it is like Penny's arc in the movie is pretty paper thin. Like she is there mostly as like a cool other art style, less so than like, oh, she has a, you know, a significant impact on the narrative of the first film.
Yeah, but she's
But
also part of that Spider Ham Spider
yeah,
Noir.
yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm saying is like she's not like she like Spider-Man Noir and Spider-Ham are such distinct characters, and and have like specific moments, and a lot of that also comes from the performances of Nicolas Cage and John Mulaney, and Kimiko Glenn is great as Penny, but like she doesn't have a lot in the way of like character beats or character moments. She is anime with a mech. And so like yeah, when she popped up in this, I was like, yay! Like I love that, you know, there's still a, you know, a place for her in this, especially because I definitely like going into this, I hadn't seen Spider-Man Noir, I hadn't seen Spider-Ham, I hadn't seen her, so I was like, oh, like are they just not going to be part of this like Spider-Man society? So yeah, when she popped back in, I was like, yay! And then we get Spider-Ham and Spider-Man Noir at the end, alluding that they'll be in the next one.
I do like that we get like
and that's like I
yeah.
love that we got Hobby, and I love that we got Paviter,
Paprikar.
Paviter Prabhakar. Yes, Indian Spider-Man. I love the new Spider-Man we got, but there was like, given my love and affinity for the first movie, I did miss some of the crew from the first film. But at the same time, like the notion can be made like they weren't on board with excluding Miles from this society. Much like Peter B and Gwen clearly also weren't, but they still went along and kind of kept him from knowing anything.
Yeah, for me, I think it's like Peter B. I feel like because he was there with Miguel.
Yeah, when the incursion thing happened. Yeah,
when that happened, there is a bond between those two characters that we get only a glimpse of. When he looks at Peter B. and he says, I've had just
the right amount
of you.
Yeah.
Like such it like there is an untapped story between these two that I'm curious if that we'll get further dimensions of that in the next film. But there is a lot about that. I will say I love at the very end, Gwen gets she gets the freaking like band back together plus
Mhm.
the new folks.
Which like it's so that also speaks to like the arcs of this movie are what make it, like the character arcs are what make this a self-contained story. Yes, the Spot is still out there and there is still a looming threat, but Gwen going from I always wanted to be in a band, I just never found the right one, to like making her band at the end
Mhm.
is phenomenal, especially up against Miles being kind of wanting nothing more than to be part of the band, but then ultimately realizing that like he also needs to go his own way. Like they're like Miles's arc being all centered around like the self, and Gwen's
Yes.
arc being all centered around like a community
Yes.
is such a beautiful parallel for the two of them in this film that I absolutely adore.
Because we see that Miles is part of Miles' struggle is one, he knows he's not alone as a Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Or a Spider Person, but then
But he's also like he is the one that exists in a world where there was a Spider-Man, so he
Yeah.
has a model that he's trying to follow, and and obviously because he's also met the others, he has a mold that he's trying to fit into, and so him ultimately coming and being like, no, I'm gonna find my own way is such a like
a great culmination,
pivotal character moment for him.
Incredible culmination of that, but also he is from a community. Like he's from a larger community. We see that when he's trying to make the personal life and the Spider-Man life work in this movie. And we see and like there's the conflict around that for him, but it's part of that conflict is also he knows that not only can it be done, but he just has to figure it out. And so he's trying to give himself patience, but he's dealing with the conflict of one, his parents already want him to start thinking about college and he's only a sophomore. Two,
But he is already thinking about college.
oh yeah, he already knows where he wants to go.
Yeah.
That also for me is like that when you said, yeah, he's studying particle physics, and he's like specifically like, I want to go to this school because they're working on this project, they're going to be doing this thing. Also, shout out to his dad for like trying to back him up, but having no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, and then shout out to his mom being like, "You want to go to New Jersey? That's too far away. Too far away from New York."
So good, so good. There's plenty of good good programs in Brooklyn, and it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, the like the parent relationship in this one is so
Top
pitch
notch.
perfect, so fun, and so so wonderful.
Dude, you gotta let him spread his wings, man.
Yeah.
Just like trying to give
then
his dad advice on how having to deal with him.
Yeah, and then it working, and Jefferson coming around to that, being like, "I guess we just got to let him spread his wings to the mom at the end before,
and she like
before Gwen
gives
pops
him the
out."
weirdest look, like, "Where'd you get that?"
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so good. But anyway, you know how you grounded him? Yeah, well, I ungrounded him, so
Yeah,
just a little bit.
or like, yeah, I mean, like every moment they have is just great. Like, I don't like Genki. He calls me by my first name. Yeah, we hate that. And then Gwen being like, "You must be Rio. You must be Jeff. Oh, call me Rio. Eh? All right.
Yeah, just
call me
immediately
Jeff.
off on
Hey."
the wrong foot.
Yeah.
Right off on the wrong foot.
Yeah.
I love it. Also, her coming out and him, and then being like, this girl was hanging out in Miles' bedroom.
Yeah.
Like,
I came in through the window, which is also normal. Yeah.
They're just like, no. And, but her being like, by the way, when you see him, tell him 5 months.
Yeah.
So good. Such a, like, it's so brilliant. I love it so much.
That's like one of the things that this movie does incredibly well is it's not just trying to be Into the Spider-Verse again. It is building on Into the Spider-Verse in every way, and that is relationships. The fact that we're picking up with a Miles who is a year and a few months into being Spider-Man. Obviously, he's been doing this for a while now, and obviously it started taking a toll, and like he isn't able to balance things like he wants to or like he thought he might be able to. And so, yeah,
it feels like he has a pretty good handle, but like this Spot is just such an outlier villain.
I like.
Oh no, you're right.
He's already late before he even runs into the
He's
Spot.
already late, and he's missed classes, so he got his A dropped to a B in Spanish.
Yeah,
Which Rowan, when his mom hears that, she
I don't know. So I first caught this because they showed that scene in one of the trailers. But when she loses it and snaps at him, her snap is the Puerto Rican flag colors. So yeah, just another like beautiful instance of the culture of this.
Shout out to not Molly Shannon, what's her name?
Rachel Dratch.
Yeah, Rachel Dratch. Her being like, it's about his story. He has a great story. Child of immigrant parents who came from Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico's part of the United States. Such a good,
and Jeff being like, we have a place in Brooklyn. Like
we own a floor. We own a floor in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Like we're not. Yeah. Just all of that. All of that.
So great. You caught this, and I definitely saw it the second time. Genki playing the Insomniac Spider-Man game is a lovely little fun nod, and then obviously we also get to see the Insomniac Spider-Man in the the group can of cameos later on. Just so much fun there, and I love also the Genki stuff of like I'm not gonna be your guy in the chair, just being a complete 180 of Ned, very deliberately so. Yep. But also clearly is in on the secret. Like, I love that. That's like just like he went from being such a non-character in the first movie to okay, well, he clearly has some kind of relationship with Miles that like Miles realized he couldn't hide it from him, so they just kind of like make it so casual. But like to your point earlier of like Miles has a community, he does, but when when pressed for it, like he doesn't have friends.
That's what I was trying to say though, is that he's from a community, but he's no longer able to truly be part of it anymore.
Yeah.
Because he's Spider-Man, because he has these greater responsibilities, the ties that are expected of him from his community, he's not fully able to fulfill, and we see that being a major conflict in his story of he's trying to do the Spider-Man thing, do both, and at the very end like makes that determination, I'm gonna do my own thing,
but it's still clearly like a fun neighborhood Spider-Man.
Dude, when
the bodega guy knows him, the cake lady knows him, and like he's like and people like love him as Spider-Man and are happy to see him and happy to have him around, except J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson in every Spider-Verse.
Perfection, absolute perfection. Shout out to his cousin who's the DJ, doing his very best to cover for this argument that's happening in the family. Between the three of them.
All right, crank up all the volume.
Crank it up, and then like the crux of the argument happens after the song is over, and he's just over there totally stressed the F out. It's so good. Yeah.
I love the cake sequence as like a fun little throwback to the pizza stuff from Spider-Man 2.
Yep.
Like, he's getting the cakes. Oh, but, keeps getting sidetracked. But hey, like he got them there. And then we open the cakes and his like heartfelt message that didn't fit on one cake, so he bought a second cake, now just says, I'm not proud. Great, like, visual,
I didn't catch that.
That's what it came. That's what it ends as, is like, I'm not proud. As just kind of like the beautiful visual payoff for that moment. But yeah, like, I mean, ever since Gwen started drumming in the first trailer of this, I was like, Gwen Stacy is the coolest damn character in ever, and she continues to be the coolest damn character in this one. I love when
she comes up second.
All right, to you, she comes up second.
Yes. Objectively, Gwen Stacy's 100% the coolest.
Yeah, like Spider-Punk can be a little bit cooler. Gwen Stacy is a much more well-rounded cool, and less cliche cool, I would say. But yeah, like anytime she and Miles are together, this movie is soaring. I love she. Oh, shout out to the Guggenheim, and the like Leonardo da Vinci vulture that comes in. Like, wait, are you like a parchment guy? As like a great introduction to the rift between dimensions that is happening, and like that brings Gwen into the fold. Shout out to Jessica Drew being kind of a mentor for Gwen, like Miles had Peter B. And yeah, I love that like she obviously wanted to go see Miles enough that she volunteered for this mission in his universe, and then spends all of the time she should be doing her job, cavorting with Miles. Just adored that their scene on the like underside of the clock tower. So beautiful. And like visually, that's the most we get of like a "What's up, Danger" kind of thing, because we get to see like them right side up and the whole world in front of them upside down. So absolutely adored that. But yeah, I just the banter that the two of them have of like catching up, and then all of the like, wait, who's Javi kind of stuff,
Oh, so
that then
good.
ultimately pays off. And then the like when Miles follows her into the India dimension, and Paviter is immediately like, oh, the romantic tension between you two is so palpable.
So good, just so good.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we're friends. He goes, does he know about Javi?
Yeah.
And he goes, who's
Oh, he
Javi?
did not know about Hobby. Yeah, yeah.
Also, shout
Karan
out.
Sony is another
Oh
incredible
yeah,
addition to the cast in this one.
the whole breakdown of like the chai
Yeah, chai
tea,
tea. What I wouldn't say
some
coffee with some cream.
and then
um,
shout out to the when Spot says, "Oh, I love chai tea," and he just goes, "Ah."
yeah, and also the like, oh, I'm here on a journey of self enlightenment. Don't eat, pray, love me, bro.
So good.
How, yeah, that's that. You come to the Indian one, yeah. So great there, and then like that introduces us to the canon events too. Of
Mhm.
like like I've been Spider-Man for 6 months and everything is great. My life is amazing. Being a twofold thing of like, wait, he's been Spider-Man 6 months and he's in this like super secret society, and also like everything's great for him. He's got the girl. He the Captain Singh hates him, but he still has beautiful hair. He doesn't have to work out. He's just Spider-Man, and everybody loves Spider-Man.
Wait a
Also,
minute, you got
shout
that?
out
That's
the
natural.
yeah,
A little bit of coconut oil.
yeah,
Okay.
coconut oil, something in genetics.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to the like, and here's the traffic, and here's the traffic, and here's the traffic, and here's the traffic, and here's where the British stole our stuff. uh, Absolutely a beautiful banger moment. That is the joke in this. That is the like, I'm going to reevaluate my personal biases from the first movie,
Hmm.
of just kind of like such a fun throwaway thing. But yeah, we get the canon event of Miles saving Captain Singh, who should have died in that
Yep.
moment, and that like leading to this chaos of the rest of the stuff that then we get to learn more about in Nueva York with Spider-Man 2099. And I love the idea that like obviously like it's not like a surprise that like all of like every Peter Parker or every Spider-Man has like a death, pivotal death kind of
Mhm.
thing, has their Uncle Ben kind of moment, and this other like has their Captain Stacy dying kind of moment, is like a great introduction to and like unifying link among all these characters. And then the way they use that too, like the way they use the idea of these canon events to like bring in Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield like clips and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, so
Um,
well done.
yeah, so expertly done, and it like it it continues doing what we got to see Spider-Man No Way Home do, of like tying all of these characters together and fulfilling that promise of the multiverse again. Like Spider-Man No Way Home did it great in the way that they basically Into the Spider-Verse, but for the live action heroes. And yeah, the way we get to see just kind of like the like lineup of the moments of those characters kind of losing their people, and like we get to see Peter B having lost his Captain Stacy. We get to see this like concern of like, and a reason why Gwen hasn't gone back to her world is because she's afraid of losing her dad, because he is a captain close to her kind of thing. And so like there's also that beautiful moment when he does, I quit, so you're not a captain anymore, like that like self-realization of like it, like did I break canon, and is that a bad thing, or does this not need to be a canon event kind of moment? I think is a lot of fun. We'll see how that plays out, I guess, in the next movie.
Yep.
But yeah, I love that Miles is basically like the realization of like, oh, like my dad's about to die. I can't stand for that. I'm not like,
Yeah.
I'm going to try and save him. And we got it earlier with the Spot, but like I absolutely love the retconning of the Spot scientist was the one who brought the 42 Spider-Man into this universe that bit Miles. And then also that he's the one that got hit by a bagel.
So good.
And so like he created Miles and Miles created him is such a beautiful like symmetry for those two characters. But the idea that Miguel brings up of like, there's a universe out there that doesn't have a Spider-Man because that spider bit you instead.
Yep.
Is such a great like struggle that he has that, is why, is why he didn't want Miles to be a part of this, why he obviously like kind of set up so many things why he didn't want Miles to be a part of this.
He's the best part. The thing I love about it is he's not a bad guy. He's in a position where he has so much knowledge and so much power that he can make such a difference. But there's everything's so predicated on,
with great power comes great responsibility.
Exactly. Yeah. He has so much responsibility. And so Miles being an anomaly, being the original anomaly,
yeah,
is such in the fact that like, he's not going after him initially for that, but it's like Miles keeps on causing problems, and that's driving this wedge further and further in with Miguel, and it feels like it takes him to a place where he is that vicious and that willing to do whatever it takes nature of his character. And I think that it is so brilliant because I still feel for him, but at the same time, he is still my antagonist. Like, he's still the antagonist.
Yeah, absolutely. Like he's the antagonist, but he is the antagonist speaking from a point of having experienced this before, speaking from having seen, having tried to be, the anomaly himself and seeing the havoc it wreaked. Is like, I'm trying to stop you because I know what it can do. But then I do also appreciate that it introduces this thing that maybe they'll examine this in the next movie, but like, if he is an anomaly, is he beholden to canon events? Like, does a captain close to that Spider-Man have to die? Like, that already happened in his universe, like with presumably with Peter A. Parker there. Yeah.
Are these canon events tied to your Peter Parker equivalent? And are anomalies like a Miles Morales separated from it?
I mean, obviously, he also had like the uncle moment with Uncle Aaron.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Does that mean that the canon event has to happen twice now?
Yeah, it's also it will be interesting to see like, these canon events are theory, but I mean, they even say like, you don't know what happens. Yeah, you don't even know. You don't know what happens when, if this doesn't happen, you don't know it's going to break like Gwen Stacy says that kind of like, do you know this is going to, break things if he saves his dad, kind of thing.
And it's like, from their experience, yes, but also like, I love it because he goes, we're going to do what we can to stabilize the like Spider-Man India universe.
Yeah.
But there's problems with I love that there's logistical issues. The fact that like, yeah, we want to save everybody, but if we do, bad things can happen. And how do we minimize? Like, I love that there's a much greater aspect of potential danger and destruction that prevents the human emotional, because these are all technically people who want to help people, and so their gut instinct would be, well, I got to go out there and I got to help people.
Yeah.
And
it is the like, you can save one person or you can save a whole universe. And everybody's like, yeah, we're going to save the universe. And everybody also having had that like, Uncle Ben moment and realizing that that is like a defining moment for their character and that makes them who they are. Yes, as tragic and as much hurt as it will be, like the impetus of that that tragedy has to happen to you to make you stronger is is an interesting place for them to all be coming from. It is like a a hint of cynicism, I guess,
Mhm.
and Miles is pure hope in that of like I have to try and do something to save my dad. You can't ask me to stand by and just let my dad die.
You
Um,
really do have optimism, cynicism, and then also nihilism with the Spot. You have those three. You have those three features, kind of like for the Spot. It's nihilistic. It's like, well, I'm gonna do whatever I need to do to survive and do what I'm gonna do because, like, it also boils down to ego and
mhm.
everything else that's around him, and he's willing to become this like,
I'm to become more than a villain of the week,
yep, to
which is
do,
another like
yeah,
that's another like not only does Spider-Man create him in that he caused the explosion in the first movie, but then he like creates him in being so dismissive of the Spot that it just like burrows away at him. Because I love in that introduction scene as much as it is played for laughs, obviously. Like I started to appreciate even more on the second viewing of like he keeps trying to do the big like monologue of like at last we meet that he's clearly like rehearsed in his head over and over and over for the last year, and like keeps getting like swatted away and it just it
yeah,
breaks him and it like it makes him snap and so yeah he is like
yeah.
this complete potential throwaway character becoming this like incredibly menacing thing by the end of the film is like wonderful.
And I also think it speaks to one of the character flaws. A lot of people love this about Spider-Man, but it is a distinct character flaw, which is he is somebody who is inherently in his regular life weak, and so when he's empowered with the mask on, he becomes a bit of a bully. He becomes harsh and cruel, and like, and that comes out as a display. It's he's so dismissive of him, treating him like he's such a small, insignificant person that this already like deeply like fragile person gets broken even further. There's no, and I think that's one of my favorite things about Spider-Man is Spider-Man like you love. I love that he's quippy and he has these things. It's like he's a lot of times Spider-Man's fighting mentally ill people, and he's mocking them.
He's yeah, he's also a Batman kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. It's like it's not okay that he's doing all this, and but I also kind of love that about him because it's one of the major flaws about him is that he can really cause his own problems. And that's also one of the best things about Spider-Man stories in general is a lot of times Spider-Man causes his own issues. Like
Hmm.
it's not the world's out to get him. It's not like, oh, he just has the worst luck. It's he makes decisions that turn out badly for him because a lot of times he can't keep his mouth shut or he can't stay focused. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
shout out to I endorsed baby powder. I apologize for endorsing the baby powder. I grew a mustache. I
Apologies
apologized
for the
again.
life.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
that little sequence, a fun little bit of kind of like bringing us up to speed on what Miles has been up to. And I love that, like I guest hosted Jeopardy. I love that he has fully embraced what his Spider-Man had done of like
Yes.
I did a Christmas album kind of stuff. He's embracing the celebrity, but also like clearly it's bit him a couple times. He is his Spider-Man, and he's also the Peter B. Parker Spider-Man that invested in a TGI Spidey's. Don't invest in a spider-themed restaurant. So yeah, I love that. Obviously on Peter B. Loved him popping in with Mayday. Lots of fun there, and I love the heart to heart that he gets with Miles in their like in the middle of their chase. Of like I had her because of you because you're so amazing. I saw that like a kid like I could maybe do that with another kid. Is a great like Jake
Yeah.
Johnson, not in a lot of this movie, but like when he is there, he absolutely continues to bring like the joy and pathos that like he did in the first movie.
Also, shout out to him basically being like, I'm his mentor, and it being like, you're a bad mentor.
Yeah. Well, he just took you out, so I can't be that bad of a mentor.
Yeah.
You're both equally bad mentors. Yeah.
Such a good line, such a good moment where you get like the three of them, like you fully understand their dynamic, and you
Mhm.
get that she's Spider Woman's trying to work with Gwen to try to like help her become like the be all that she can be kind of Spider-Woman, and she looks, and like Gwen looks up to her so much, and now it comes to a point where like she quote unquote gave up on her, and it's just, that's such a brutal moment
Mm-hmm.
when she expects her to have her back, and Spider-Woman, this one on the, like specifically Spider-Woman on the bike,
Yeah.
says like, no, like you let him go, like you made your decision. And I like, there's something that I love about that, because it's heartbreaking, but it's also where people's, like, the lines have been drawn at the end of that movie.
Yeah.
Lines have been drawn.
She is absolutely the right hand that Miguel wants.
Mhm.
And the right hand that Miguel had for a while was Peter B. And like you very clearly see why he picked and kind of like molded Jessica Drew into his right hand. Because obviously she is the backup that gets called when Miguel shows up at the Guggenheim.
Mhm.
So yeah, like she's clearly like their badass in her own right, seemingly pregnant for way too long. But but you know, whatever. So yeah, I love yeah how the kind of the battle lines do get drawn at the end. Obviously there was that nice little moment with Spider Bite, the Spider Woman that is, you know, just an avatar in that
Oh
universe.
yeah,
Like has the moment where she could stop.
Cass is her name.
Yeah. Could stop Miles,
But
chooses not to because they had that little moment earlier. And she ends up on the team with Gwen at the end there.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely love that. And shout out to like we both caught enough of this to know that Miles did not get sent back home at the end. But
oh
yeah,
my
like,
gosh, it's such a good moment.
The little like, you know, blink and you'll miss it Earth, like preparing Earth 42. And like you may have caught it sooner than I did, but like in my mind, I'm like, Earth 42. He wasn't from Earth 42.
Nope, he's
was
from
he?
Earth 16.
42 was the spider. The spider's from Earth 42, and that DNA's in him. And like, yeah. So like having that realization well before obviously he does and the characters do, but they just do such a great job of kind of like setting up that like parallel of like you don't know that they're in different universes based on the way it is shot. Like you see him going into his house, you know, everything looks fun, and it ends up being more the Back to the Future 2 kind of like Biff, you know, universe kind of thing. So on a second glance or second viewing, I did realize Rio in Miles's universe has brown eyes. In Earth 42 has green eyes. So that's like another tip if you're like that observant. And also Miles is wearing, I think you noticed, you clocked that like when Miles is like covered up with a hoodie from that Miles, it's like a purple and green kind of hoodie, a la the Prowler colors that Uncle Aaron and that Miles have. So yeah, it's like they do enough to like let the keen observer know what's going on. And so we talked about like the idea that if you know, you're just there waiting for the tension of the other shoe to drop and for the characters to realize what's going on. And if you don't know, it's going to be a fun, tense surprise when that reveal happens.
When the mural of his dad is shown. And that's when the other foot drops for I think for most people. That would
no, the foot drops for most people when Uncle Aaron
Uncle Aaron
walks in.
shows up.
Well, I mean, the shoe really drops when like Rio is like, who's
right.
Spider-Man?
Who's Spider-Man? That's
like,
right. That's the foot drops, right?
Yeah, it drops a few times before, but yeah, it is like a cool vibe. Also, shout out to the continuity of Miles' universe not having a Comic-Con and Miles still not knowing what a Comic-Con is.
Yep.
It was a gag from the first movie.
What's a Comic-Con?
Yeah, what's a Comic-Con?
Yeah, so good.
Yeah. So yeah, like the way that's shot, the way, because it's shot with, we see Gwen constantly like peeking into the window, and obviously she's not seeing anybody in that window because Miles isn't in that universe. But they show it, you know, just distinct enough that like it can read as she is watching and so happy that Miles is revealing himself to his mom kind of moment.
Yeah. For me, I my part where I was like, wait, maybe they, because my thought was, did they go to
did
did
Miguel and
Miguel
them go
go to
to
Earth 1610 or did they go to Earth 42? That was my, like, that's where my tension in that moment was.
uh-huh.
Because there's a moment where Miles goes behind like a neon sign and then it cuts to Miguel in front of a neon sign.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, did they follow him to Earth 42? Like, what's going on? And then and then you see Scarlet Spider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Shout out to 90s comic books.
Yeah. Ben Reilly. Shout out to Andy Samberg, like just being super broody about that.
Yep, so good. I didn't know that. I did not realize that was Andy Samberg. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ben Parker, Scarlet Spider.
Ben Reilly, sorry.
Ben Reilly, Scarlet Spider. So freaking good. Clone of Spider-Man, but maybe the real Spider-Man. Oh, 90s Clone Saga, so freaking bad. But yeah, that entire thing, like him waiting outside of it and just so good. It's so good the way that they cut things perfectly. So like, okay, are the bad guys following him, or did they all think he got sent to 1610? And it turns out they all thought he went to 1610.
Yeah, I was very much in the, like, as soon as I realized Miles went to the wrong universe, I was like, oh, that's going to set up a great dramatic irony because they're all going to go thinking he went back to his universe. And so, yeah, and including Gwen, like when Gwen's, going to find a way out of her universe. Again, that's where we get the beautiful scene with her and her dad and the reconciliation with them. That's great.
Oh, shout out to Jessica Drew's the name of the Spider-Woman on the motorcycle. Yeah. She does the thing where she puts together the scene where Gwen's talking to his parents.
Yeah.
I just remembered that. I'm like, so she knows, but is she gonna tell Miguel? Is like
that's what we see at the end. Yeah.
There's so many, like, where are people, like, where are there, because once again we get into this, there's not nihilism, it's cynicism. They think that this has to happen this way, these tragedies have to happen, versus optimism and hope. And I'm loving how that's clashing, because that's also such a classic Spider-Man theme, is optimism versus cynicism. And getting it to see it on like this scale with this many different characters is so freaking cool.
Yeah. I absolutely love how, going again back to Miles's arc in this movie, like, even though it's not to the right Rio, the fact that he comes clean and says, like, I'm Spider-Man, and is ready emotionally to divulge that to his mom, is like, that is the character arc that he has in this movie. That is what makes this a standalone movie, instead of like a bad part 1 of 2 kind of thing. Much like, again, like Dune, Paul Atreides' arc over the course of that movie, even if it is only half of the story of Dune, is still a self-contained thing, compared to like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, that was just like, okay, they just cut it off midway through the book. Or I've not seen it, but I've heard terrible things about how Fast and Furious 10 is just like clearly a setup for the next movie, and doesn't have a satisfying like end point. And this one does, I think, in so many ways. Because, on the Gwen side of thing, she's bringing the band together. She and has a mission to find Miles and to help Miles save Miles' dad. In Miles, like, we get that great, his realization that he's in the wrong universe. Love that. Love how, while that is happening, Gwen's spider sense goes off and has the same realization that he's in the wrong universe. Yep. So they just do such a great economy of storytelling there and let the characters be as smart as they are. And I love that, like, all of that gets temporarily pushed aside when he sees Uncle Aaron and gets to see his uncle again. And like, I wasn't expecting Mahershala Ali to pop back up. So like, when he, walked in the door, I was like, oh, fucking yes, this is great.
Mahershala Ali back in there. And then can we just let's gush about it? The rooftop scene.
Yeah.
It's such a perfect setup. When we see the Prowler show up, and I'm like, oh,
yeah,
that's when it hit for me. I was like, Aaron's not the Prowler in this universe.
Yeah.
It's Miles, and getting to see this alternative version of Miles,
Hmm.
and also shout out to me,
But
like, you
but
don't have to
also,
be the Prowler. I'm not.
yeah,
So
the beautiful like visual of like the punch and the colors coming out of the punching bag, kind of that moment, but also like the symmetry of how Miles tied up the Spider-Man in the first movie.
Peter B.
Yeah, how he tied up Peter B. This Miles has the same idea, ties him up to a punching bag. And yeah, the like Miles' realization that there isn't a Spider-Man in this universe, obviously that had been set up earlier. The switch from the Uncle Aaron graffiti to the Jefferson Davis graffiti. And then yeah, like the having that realization of like, because obviously he's on the roof, Aaron is there, and somebody else comes and attacks. It is that like, and then it's like, a Miles in the fists of the Prowler or something like that. It was that like dawning of like, oh, in this universe, Miles is the Prowler. That's fucking great. And
It's
then
so good.
And then that reveal, because even that like gets a little, a little bit of foreshadowing with both the mom and Uncle Aaron commenting on Miles's hair, and I love that like with Jefferson Davis gone, this Miles has a little bit more Puerto Rican to his voice, and like really punches Morales.
I didn't pick up. You saw it literally this morning again.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I mean, I caught it last night too. But yeah, the like he has a little bit more Latin flair too when he says, Earth 1610 Miles Morales says Miles Morales. Earth 42 is Miles Morales.
That's cool.
And yeah, it just has like that extra little bit of like cultural and history to the character that we get to see for all of a minute. And
Gosh,
I
he
can't
was
wait
so
to see
cool.
where that arc goes in the next one, and whether or not like Miles convinces other Miles to like be a hero in that world and like use his Prowler skills for good, or if Earth 42 is ultimately a lost cause. Be interesting to see where it goes. Yeah. Any final spoilery things to chat about? Do you want to like theorize where the movie's going to go next, or
Dude, I have no idea.
yeah,
Like, I couldn't tell you.
just kind of enjoy and be surprised along the way.
100%.
Obviously we've got like the Spot and Miguel to contend with, and now the Prowler. So yeah, we got lots of baddies to face off against next time.
My personal feeling is I'm open to whatever. I went into this so blind. The same way I went into the Spider-Verse. I went into the Spider-Verse extremely blind, went into this one extremely blind. I'm loving these movies the less that I'm trying to dig into them over time. I don't know if that's just like a letting go and letting the movies be what they are rather than like speculating and theorizing about them, but I have so many thoughts about where this could go. I'm just willing to go wherever it's going to go. I want to see how they conclude this trilogy.
Yeah. Shout out to what was I going to shout out to? Oh, shout out to Lego Spider-Man. And specifically, I appreciated it even more on the second time doing the Lego movie thing of like boop boop, like pushing a button on his pad and like making the sound effects himself, like they did in the Lego movie stuff. Such a great a great little gag. And then yeah, like just the sincerity with which Miguel says, "Thanks, Lego Spider-Man. You're one of our best." So delightful. I definitely need to find room so I can build my Spider-Man Daily Bugle set out there.
It's a big boy.
It's
That's
a
a big
it's
boy
a
set.
big ass set. Yeah,
There's so many characters on it. I was looking at the top of the box.
Yeah, 25 minifigs. That was why I bought it, really, because I was like, there are so many figures there. That alone is like a great value. And it is also a set filled with like Spider-Man memes and stuff like that. So it's clearly got like a ton of love. So yeah. Shout out to Lego. But yes, those are our Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse thoughts. I'm sure I will see it at least a couple more times in theaters, and then I can't wait for this to come to DVD and streaming, so I can just enjoy the crap out of it at my own and freeze frame and see all like the fun little Easter eggs and stuff. Because there are moments where like so many things are going on screen. Like the one particular thing is like making a joke about stopping the spot. Oh, you got jokes? Anybody else got jokes? And then you just see like a whole bunch of text box from all the other Spider-Men in the lobby pop up that like you clearly can't read in the moment, but those are definitely going to be like freeze frame gags and stuff like that. Yeah, can't wait to just continue supporting this film, and I hope that Beyond the Spider-Verse caps this trilogy off expertly. I have no doubt it will because of how strong these two have been. Like it would be such a like shocking turn of events for this to somehow be a letdown. And so yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this being my favorite trilogy of all time as well. But so yeah. That is going to do it for this episode. Thank you, Cam, for joining me to talk all things Spider-Verse. Let's go around our table with any plugs we have. You can follow Cameron at RevCabot, 2Bs, 2Ts. What do you want to plug, Cameron?
I'm going to plug that we have an awesome series going on right now with Disney Plus. We are going to be doing the Indiana Jones saga. Come check that out. We just did Raiders of the Lost Ark. We're going to be doing Temple of Doom next.
Yeah, it's gonna be an up and down month for us.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. Shout out to that, and that'll all culminate at least in like real time here in June with us going and seeing Dial of Destiny in theaters, and then eventually we'll come back and do a Disney Plus episode on it when the time comes. But yeah, shout out to that series. We're doing a lot of fun little extra segments like we did with Pirates of the Caribbean, where we're ranking the artifacts from the movies and all that fun stuff. And the most punchable Nazi is probably my favorite segment that we've got in there. So yeah, go check that out. You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey on Twitter. In addition to that podcast, go check out our Let's Plays on Tuesdays and Thursdays right now. You can see my playthrough of Tears of the Kingdom. This week we will be going into the Zora's Domain section of the game,
Nice.
kind of doing what's over there. Last week we did the Rito Village stuff. As we said at the top, Cameron has beaten the game. I am pretty much going to be recording my final Let's Plays of the game tomorrow. Knock on wood. So next week we will probably be back with a spoiler cast on that. And then also check out our Jedi Fallen Order series continuing on Wednesdays as Cameron plays through that game, which he played through in the lead up to Jedi Survivor. We just didn't time that one as well as we could have.
Nope.
But we still got the episodes coming. Still got probably another month and change on that one on Wednesdays. So there you go. You follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, ring notification bells, do all the things that the algorithm likes you to do. Thank you for listening. As always, stay nerdy, be good to each other, and remember, anyone can wear the mask.